So in this video, we'll be reacting to That's What I Said and his reaction to the quote-unquote new Hellraiser. I will just open up with a very strong correction because this has really been mislabeled and misrepresented. The idea is that Pinhead is now a woman and there is a quote gender swap. Now I understand that because in many cases there is a gender swap, and so it's gotten people angry, or some people do like it, etc., etc. This is not one of those cases. Period. If you go back to the original short story or novella, because it's a pretty modest story. It's not that big. Essentially, the Cenobites there, I guess we would call them gender fluid. They don't really have a precise gender. And this new Hellraiser is picking up that idea that their gender is in flux. So technically, the Cenobites never were fully male or fully female. Now, in the film, yes, Pinhead is a male, but that was a change that Clive made from the original. And of course, in parts 1 and 2, we think Pinhead is a male, but it's a little bit more complicated because the Cenobites have a complex mythology. So the basics with the new Hellraiser is it will be this more gender fluid Pinhead. And of course, we're going to find a young woman in trouble. She finds the puzzle box and trouble ensues, and it's being put out by Hulu. And he is not comfortable with it.
And that was a Hulu original, and I really did enjoy Prey. I thought that movie was pretty good, but this new Hellraiser movie, I just don't know, man. Now, some of you may say, "Oh, it's because the new Pinhead is a woman, so you don't like that for that reason, because you're like anti-woman or anti-feminist." No, that's not true at all. But I just don't like, even though the director said that this is not a remake, I just don't like the idea of reimagining something that was, like he said, something that was perfect, I truly do believe that the first Hellraiser is an absolutely phenomenal movie. And Hellraiser 2 is even more interesting and even more like peculiar and just cool, and I love the first two Hellraiser movies. Those movies are just absolutely amazing, and I love them to death. So, hearing this, that there's this new movie coming out with like female Pinhead, I just don't like. I don't know. I just don't like it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just don't like the way this new Pinhead looks.
Well, again, I don't really have a problem with him not liking it, but him being sort of misguided about the gender swap is a real problem. To be fair, the comments section have corrected him, and he agrees, okay, yeah, it's not really a gender swap, but he seems to still not like it, which is perfectly fine. And it would even be fine if he was uncomfortable with a quote gender swap. I think the issue here is how far do we want the originals to be respected and to work with them? And this applies, of course, to Star Wars, the Lord of the Rings film trilogy, so on and so forth. And you gotta sort of tell people to wake up. These are film productions. These are not stories that are published in books. There's a radical difference. These are massive financial, legal commitments. And because of that, the ownership rights are often all over the place. So I like the first two Hellraisers. You may like the first two Hellraisers, but that doesn't really matter. What our opinion of Hellraiser 1 and 2 is irrelevant. The question is who owns the rights. And as far as I know, Clive Barker has some of the rights back, but he doesn't have full control of Hellraiser in totality. So even if we wanted the original Hellraiser with Doug Bradley and a whole new story with Doug, sort of a new Hellraiser 3, a new Hellraiser 4, that may not be legally or financially possible. It just is not possible. There are various reasons for that. So we're kind of stuck. I agree with him in principle. If you like the movie adaptation of the novel and of what Clive wrote as a story, that's great. You don't have to like the original story. You don't have to continue reading the books and comic books about Hellraiser. But that is a legitimate separate universe, and some fans do like that. You don't have to watch Hellraiser 3 and 4, much less the sequels, which I think, to be frank, were all over the place, and only some of them are, at very best, decent. Also, it's a fact they've already done this. They have replaced Doug in various sequels. He's not played consistently Pinhead. He's tried, but again, these film productions have declined. they're not able to pay him the proper amount I think he deserves. The Hellraiser has just been in sharp decline. It is a lot like Predator, where people just gave up on it. And Prey, I think, rightly shows you can still revive this kind of idea and or property. But again, we're going in a circle. It depends on the ownership and who can control the property, what rights do they have, what rights they don't have. At this point, they are doing the Hulu. The Hulu version is coming out. HBO has its version. They're working on that with the director of Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. But as far as I know, that's not moving. That's not going anywhere. There is zero traction on it. My own opinion is it looks promising. We have a new Cenobite as well as the quote gender fluid Pinhead. And I think the design is okay, but again, this will not look like the leather clad Cenobites. They're going in a different direction. I think at least the director's up front. This will be basically a new story, just using aspects of the mythology. And from what I hear, the buzz is pretty positive. The test screenings went well. It will be rated R. It will be very intense and gory. And yes, of course, have a lot of nudity because, again, this is Hellraiser. It's going to be a very graphic story. So all the signs are there that it's going to be at least a good film. Will it be a great film like Prey? We're going to have to wait and see. And I think it's fine if hardcore fans want to stick to Hellraiser 1 and 2, that's their prerogative. But again, Clive Barker is the creator of Hellraiser. If he wants to move on or reimagine it, I don't know what we can tell him. You can say, I don't like this guy. I don't like this. I feel nervous. That's all well and fine. It's also irrelevant. He can legally and artistically reimagine the mythology. You may not like that. You may express your dislike. It doesn't matter. It's going to move forward. So at this point, it looks promising because Clive has endorsed this version. But will it match the originals? Probably not. And that's the thing, the originals will always be there. This is not like Star Wars where George Lucas is trying to force people to watch his special edition versions. You can still see the original Hellraiser 1 and 2 in their glory. With Star Wars, Lucas is trying to force people to see his version. And you can say the same thing. Well, I'm the original creator of Star Wars. Well, we'll put aside he borrowed too much, so his originality is in question. But as long as you have both versions available, I think that's the important thing. If Clive wants to do a new version of the story, that's great. As long as the old version is available for fans of that version, that's the important thing. As far as I know, Hellraiser 1 and 2 have not been touched. You can just see them as they are. I agree, it's okay to dislike something. You can even dislike something if you think, quote, it's going in a female direction. But as long as the originals are available, I don't see what are the grounds for complaining. But it's a good reaction video, but I need more information about why he's not comfortable. So far, it's kind of vague, but if he legitimately doesn't like this new version, I think that's fine. I see a lot of promise here, but I need more. The images look promising, but I need a little bit more to be convinced.